Boat, what's your status on Sunset Rubdown?
I asked for one once and I got thrown out of the health club.
My man. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another Friday episode of the Audiophiles. It's John and Andy, as usual. Hope everyone's doing well out there in the YouTube sphere. As I suggested, we are back here for a Friday episode, which means it is a viewer request Friday. And today we will be covering a band called Sunset Rubdown that was offered up by Mr. Crayer. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. M.R. Crayer, Mr. Cryer, I don't know. But if you're out there, you know who I'm talking about. You offered up their track, You Go On Ahead, on our video devoted to Wolf Parade, which was Cloud Shadow on the Mountain, I believe, that I had John go off and listen to. And once again, we'll be having John go off and listen to this. Now, I am only familiar with Sunset Rubdown and kind of who they are, but I don't know any of their music. I haven't gotten around to it yet. John, are you in a similar boat? What's your status on Sunset Rubdown?
I asked for one once and I got thrown out of the health club.
My man. I knew one of us was making a joke. I'm glad you got to
No, I've never heard of Sunset Rubdown, Your Honor.
Fair. Well, you're about to, so you have you no longer have plausible deniability after you go off and listen to this thing. So come back, let us know what you think.
Will do. Okay, so a minute in, an interesting start. It's almost had that sort of voodoo child sort of start, but it wasn't obviously. But yeah, interesting. And then second guitar, and then percussion, drums, and it had almost like a tribal dance feel to it, very rhythmic, and bass as well comes in, and then there's shitty Casio. One thing which I have a silly fondness for, kind of broke the spell. And then Isaac Brock's younger cousin starts warbling, and we're away. So yeah, interesting start. Really sort of rhythmic, kind of thing you'd imagine if they were still going. This is kind of perhaps the sound that like someone like Talking Heads would have made. Maybe not. Anyway, interesting start. Let's see how it progresses.
Shove your heels as they take turns, breaking the desert heat to beckon me in languages I've never learned. And I'd like to have you navigate to hills where no musicians live, and on the way decide what bendings of your will you're willing to forgive. And I'd like to think the actors never You go on ahead for a while. I would like to just follow you a while. And you go on ahead for a while. I would like to just follow you a while.
Yes, getting some interesting stuff going here. We're getting this. Sometimes it kind of makes sense, but sometimes the lyrics just sound like complete non sequiturs. What was the guy's name from the Viz? Was it Roger Irrelevant? Wibble Wibble. Yeah, it could easily be some of that stuff. And sometimes it sounds a bit more, sort of close to being making sense. But the music's really interesting. We got this sort of classic indie guitar sound, and it expands a bit. There's some real nice drums going on. Again, really expansive. Yeah, it's sounding sort of very expressive.
And when me and the boys were out, we killed 1,000 butterflies. So I put their wings into my mouth and said a prayer for our safe arrival. And then a big black car crossed our path, and I wondered whether or not that shit was empty. You go.
That verse about they killed 1,000 butterflies and put their wings in their mouths, it's just absolute nonsense. I'm sure you can make it mean whatever you want. It's quite interesting, but yeah, complete gibberish, really. I get it now. This is what happens when you have someone with sort of prog leanings almost dressed up in an indie type sound. Yeah, you've got this kind of ADHD sort of steering the course of this song, if you want to call it. Of course, it's starting to go all over the place now and just breaking, and yeah, interesting.
Tongues behind the stage, see the actor keep their ritual to keep them all at bay. He would like to come home naked without war paint on his face.
It's a nice guitar.
Virgin white and virgins are still chaste. So wait, and you've got to 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 wait for me. And I'll appear before you, virgin white and virgins are still chaste. Then I'd like to just follow you a while. And if there are two eyes in my head, there are 4 seasons in a year. And reflections of the water of a burning yellow sphere. And the days add up to weeks, add up to months, and add up, and add up, and add up, add up, and 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 add up. And if there are 2 eyes in my head, there are 4 seasons in a year. And reflections of...
Okay, I'm sorry to stop it there with that. There was just some chord changes there that just sounded like straight out of sort of some stage production. Dun 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 dun. Something wicked, this way comes. But then after that, just it was starting the add ups a bit. The guitar right here was just beautiful. Really, really wonderful stuff going on. And it says something about there's 2 eyes in my head and there are 4 seasons in the year. These 2 things are not related. Apart from their numbers. That's hilarious. Yeah, this is both really good and really annoying at the same time.
The water of a burning yellow sphere.
drumming.
off the beer.
Yeah, it became sort of prancing at the end, didn't it? Yeah, this is another one of these ones where it's not really my thing. However, there are elements of this that I really thought were impressive. Some of the guitar work was just wonderful. And the drumming as well was really good. I said it before, these Isaac Brock impersonators don't really cut it for me. There's something about him, the way he does it, that he carries it off. And this sort of warbling doesn't really work for me. It sounds like somebody's wearing a pair of shoes with really big heels that are slightly too tall, tight for them as well, and they're about to teeter on the edge of falling over at any point. That's what it sort of conjured up in my head. But yeah, some really interesting things going on there. And as for the lyrics, it did sound like nonsense to me, which is fine. You know, you can have nonsense lyrics, as long as. But I'd be really interested if there is supposed to be something behind it. We'll have to find out more. And Andy's had to do the research on this, which I bet he loved doing. So let's go back and find out exactly what's going on with Andy.
All right. So you have returned from the Sunset Rubdown. How was it?
I won't say. I won't say.
Fair. Well, maybe we can just talk about the song.
There's a music instead, yeah. So the song starts with these rasps from one guitar, and then another one joins in, and it has just like a faint echoes, almost like a modernized version of the sort of beginning of like Voodoo Child's like Return. So, sort of thing. Just like, faintly, like they were waving at each other from across the street, not very close, but enough. And then when they're joined by the drums, it becomes almost, for just a few seconds, almost feels like a tribal dance. Really interesting. And then comes the bass, which then fits in, just absolutely dovetails in beautifully. So it's all going. And then we get our good friend, the cheap ass Casio fucking machine. And yes. So, and as I said in the reaction, for some reason, I love that shit.
Dude,
It sounds
I literally
terrible.
laughed out loud when I was listening to this and doing the research. I got to that part. I just started laughing because I knew this was going to happen.
And then we get Isaac Brock's younger cousin starting to sing. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again right now. Whatever Mr. Brock does, somehow he pulls it off. Not too sure about his imitators. To me, this was like the musical equivalent of someone teetering in very high heels or platform shoes that are a size too small for them, and they could fall over at any minute. I do have to admit, the warbling did start to grate me a little bit by the end. Just saying. So the song starts to develop, and we get this really strong rhythmic feel to it. It's quite interesting for the first minute or so. And I just popped into my head this idea that because I don't know when this is from, but I could imagine it's kind of, I don't know, late noughties, early teens, something like that period, roughly. And it made me think, I wonder, is this the sort of music that Talking Heads would be doing if they were still around? Because it's had that lovely rhythmic quality to it. Do you know what I mean? They're just, probably not, but perhaps.
I can see why you think that, though, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think one of the many things the singer is trying to, or no, that's not fair. One of the many influences on the singer would be a sort of bastardization of David Byrne as well, is in amongst that mix of how his voice sounds. So again, it's interesting. But speaking of which, I'm trying to grasp some of the lyrics, but just as you get like a framework of a sentence or half a sentence that makes sense, then you get a series of non sequiturs, which it's just trying to sort of like knit smoke.
Yeah.
So I kind of give up. We have a little mini breaking proceedings around the 2 minute mark with some lovely guitar action. It's sort of classic indie guitar, which starts to become a bit more expansive. And then comes this muscular drumming that's a bit more forthright. Sounds great. And then towards the 3 minute mark, we get some more wonderful nonsense. I catch the line. So we're like, me and the boys killed 1,000 butterflies, so we put their wings in my mouth and said a prayer, and it's just nonsense. Um, and the music's building, and you feel like it's building, and a guitar comes into it, sounding like Starsky's Gran Torino, like siren brazing, and then it breaks into some sort of medieval prancing courtly music, and it's just that really grated me. But anyway, and this is when it hit me. This is what happens when you take someone with prog sensibilities and you dress up their endeavors in the sounds of indie stroke alt rock sort of music. Um, it's a proper ADHD approach to the tiller of this track. You know, it's going dun, 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 dancing all over the place, which, as you know, can annoy me. We then go back to another sort of building section, and I have to say, in the right channel, some amazing guitar work preceding the sort of bit where he keeps going, "You've got to wait for me" section. It's just really wonderful. I mean, it's fast and it's fluid and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we go to another section from there, which has almost comedic, almost pantomime chord changes to indicate danger, like something wicked this way comes in a dun, 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 dun. And then we get another classic line where it says, "There are two eyes in my head, but there are 4 seasons in a year." And these two things are only related because they're both numbers. I mean, it just makes no sense at all. Um, Back to again this classic indie sound. We just like keep saying, repeating add up section, which again builds. It's really nice. And again, I cannot stress this enough. More fantastic guitar. And I said in the reaction that this is both really good and really annoying to me at the same time. We're queuing more guitar work that is just again stellar, really good, and some great drumming. And the drumming kind of morphs into almost like a military sound, and then it becomes almost prancing, and then it just finishes and fades.
Mhm.
So I would say, to be fair, um, this is probably more your particular boulevard of pleasure than mine, I think. There are elements in it that were truly great for me. I think the guitars are fantastic and the drumming, but the way the song's sort of structured and meanders is not for me. It's not really my sort of digestive biscuit, I have to say.
Mhm.
But lots of interesting ideas. Can't knock him for that. And I say, it's not my taste in terms of the overall feel of it, but there's certain elements of it are just outstanding. And
Excellent.
I can't wait for you to go through the lyrics and tell me what it all means.
I don't know if you're gonna get that out of me. Um, yeah, this album. I've come to find out how interesting it is and didn't really know. I mean, I know the artist because so the guy that you heard singing is the mastermind behind the band. It started as a solo project of his that then kind of blew up, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But this is Spencer Krug, who is the singer for Wolf Parade,
Yeah.
and this is one of his many
Right.
projects that he's a part of. Like this was supposed to start off as an independent solo project, then it became something bigger. He's also part of like Swan Lake, which I think is like that Canadian indie supergroup. And then he started Moonface, which was supposed to be which is what this was supposed to be, in that it's just like a pseudonym for him to like put out just solo stuff that hasn't blossomed like this one did into a whole nother band. So, and all the while he's still doing Wolf Parade. So he's got a lot of spinning plates going on right now. Especially at the time of this album, when this album came out and was written. So yeah, wildly talented guy whose voice you have heard before. And I think you even compared him to Isaac Brock on the Wolf Parade video.
I
So
imagine I must have done,
yeah,
yes.
you're very consistent in that. So, but yeah, another glimpse into his oeuvre and bag of tricks. now that we've dipped into Sunset Rubdown. They are a Canadian rock band. That probably comes as very little surprise given what we know about Wolf Parade and what I just mentioned about Swan Lake. So yeah, the band began as a solo project, like I mentioned, of Spencer Krug of Wolf Parade, who released his debut Snake's Got a Leg in early 2005. By the next year, the project had expanded to become a full band, which now includes, again, the aforementioned Spencer Krug on vocals, keys, guitar, and kick drum, Camilla Wynn on vocals, percussion, and keyboards, Michael Dorkson on guitar, bass, synthesizer, drums, and vocals, Jordan Robson Kramer on drums, guitar, and keyboard, and Nicholas Mers on bass, drums, and vocals. It sounds like everybody's doing any possible thing on any given track because they all kind of have the same resume as far as like what instruments they play and everything like that. So it's just a gaggle of multi-instrumentalists from Canada. So Sunset Rubdown is built around lyricist Spencer Krug's vocals and eccentric musical compositions. I would say eccentric is probably a polite way to put it from your vantage point. But yes, Krug's lyrics are characterized by surreal and mythological imagery and often tell epic stories, most notably on their LP Dragon Slayer. More on that later. Musically, the band's sound is highlighted by distinct drum, keyboard, and guitar signatures. 1 year after releasing the aforementioned A Snake's Got a Leg, Krug released the solo-created Sunset Rubdown EP. This was followed by the first full band album, Shut Up, I'm Dreaming, recorded in Montreal in early 2006. So they're churning out shit too. And it was released in May to positive reviews, finishing the year with a 15th place ranking on Pitchfork's Best Albums list. There we have it. Okay. It wouldn't be a mention of Pitchfork without it. Random Spirit Lover, recorded in Montreal's Break Glass Studios in the late winter of 2007, was released on the band's new label, Jaguar, in October of that year. The recording featured an eclectic and elaborate collection of songs, which was heralded as one of 2007's best albums by several critics and music publications. They're starting to see a theme here. Anytime they put something out, it's getting more and more press from the critics. It made a number of top 20 albums of the year lists, earned Pitchfork's Best New Music distinction, and finished in the 14th spot in Pitchfork's year-end readers poll. The album also made NPR's list of top albums of 2007 and was nominated for the U.S. Indie Music Industry's Plug Award in the Best Indie Album of the Year category. The band recorded their fourth album in Chicago after a fall 2008 tour of the U.S. Following a spring 2009 tour of several European countries, Dragon Slayer was released on June 23, 2009, again to critical acclaim. The album's live off the studio floor dynamics has garnered widespread acclaim. The band once again earned Pitchfork's Best New Music ranking, with Dragon Slayer staying in the top 10 on Canadian and U.S. college and indie music charts for 10 straight weeks through July and August of 2009. The band completed a 46-city tour of Europe, U.S., and Japan from September to November in 2009, after which they disbanded. The album finished on many online music magazine and music blogs' top albums year-end lists, Drowned in Sound, Associated Press, and Earshot, for example, including several top 10 lists. The album was voted as the 16th best album of the year in Pitchfork's year-end readers poll, and also finished as one of the top 40 highest-ranked reviewed albums of the year based on Metacritic's tracking system. Its Metacritic score stands at 81. AllMusic and Rock Feedback each awarded it 4 to 5 stars. Planet Sound gave it an 8 out of 10. Pitchfork an 8.3 out of 10. Pop Matters gave it a 9 out of 10, and it received a perfect 10 from England's Drowned in Sound web magazine. Writing for the publication, Alexander Tudor, that's a very appropriate name for an English person, would review the album and say this: Sunset Rubdown are about creating worlds as a precursor to creating hope. It's bright new place it's a bright new place you've never seen before. The bright place glimpsed in the choruses that take us back there. This is important. In theory, all popular music should do this, some or most of the time. In practice, it pushes your buttons, leaves you feeling cheated, whacks you off, and picks your pocket at the same time. Guess that's it, Sunset Rubdown. Spencer Crew creates his own living lyrical world as well as, or better than, anyone who springs to mind. Joanna Newsom, Marnie Stern, Jeff Mangum of Neutral Milk Hotel, Jason Molino, Will Oldham, whoever. Over at Treblezine, John Butt also reviewed the album and had this to say. What I love about the music of this band, and particularly this album, is that for all of its randomness, it's obvious they know what they are doing and are deceptively careful and particular with what they do. Not only does the album get catchier with repeated listens, but each song somehow gets catchier. He would add, I wouldn't call this record a crossover, but even with the usual cryptic medieval lyricism, the songs on Dragon Slayer are steadier and a bit more cohesive than those on Random Spirit Love, and for that reason, it's that much more appealing. Diehards may want it to sound more fucked up, but this is great stuff by a band finally finding their feet, even out parading Wolf Parade. So, it's high accolades. Let's get over to these lyrics, which you, I think, understood the gravity and magnitude of when you listened to them. Probably don't need to get into the meaning. You go on ahead for a while. I would like to follow you a while. You go on ahead for a while. I would like to follow you a while. And I'd like to watch the white flash of your heels as they take turns breaking the desert heat to beckon me in languages I've never heard. And I'd like to have you navigate to hills where no musicians live, and on the way decide what mendings of your will you're willing to forgive. And I'd like to think the actors never banded, and I'd like to throw this trumpet down and go on empty-handed. And I'd like to think I am not one of them, but I know I am. So I'd like to just follow you a while. You go on ahead for a while. I'd like to follow you. I'd just like to follow you a while. And you go on ahead for a while. I would like to just follow you a while. When me and the boys were out, we killed 1,000 butterflies. So we put their wings into my mouth and said a prayer for our safe arrival. And then a big black car crossed our path, and I wondered whether or not that shit was empty. You go. See the sirens and the lizards lick their tongues behind the stage. See the actor keep their ritual to keep them all at bay. You would like to come home naked without war paint on his face and appear before you virgin white if virgins are still chaste. So when you've got to wait, and 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 you've got to wait for me. And I'll appear before you virgin white if virgins are still chaste. Then I'd like to just follow you for a while. And if there are 2 eyes in my head, there are 4 seasons in a year, and reflections on the water of a burning yellow sphere. And the days add up to weeks, add up to months, and add up. And if there are 2 eyes in my head, there are 4 seasons in a year, and reflections on the water of a burning yellow sphere. And the days add up to weeks, add up to months, and add up to years. And if reflections on the water sometimes look like burning tears, we can watch them changing shape without pushing off the pier. So if I'm not mistaken, this is what I read up about the song, that it serves as a sequel to Trumpet, Trumpet, Toot, Toot, which is track 11 off their 2007 album, Random Spirit Love, of which there are
It's obvious now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now it all makes sense, having never heard that song or known about it. So, yeah, it is in some way, shape, or form a sequel to a song off the previous album that I've yet to give a listen to, though I honestly will. I had a lot of fun listening to this, and you were right. This is a bit more that indie prog is sort of where you and I split a little bit, and this has a lot of that. Also, I'm a total nerd for like high fantasy and medieval shit, and there are shades of this in that as you described. So yeah, I would absolutely love to go back and nerd out on this album and listen to the song that kind of inspired this the sequel, if you will. So I'll be checking it out.
Yeah, I said in the reaction, and joking aside, that there are sometimes there's great songs which have absolute nonsense lyrics in, and that's not a problem. One of my favorite Beatles songs is "I'm the Eggman." I'm the Walrus. Sorry,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm the Walrus. I mean, I just love that song so much, and that's complete nonsense. And it kind of has a bit of that psychedelic lyrically, that psychedelic feel to it.
Yeah, yeah, without
But
question.
yeah,
So, finally, in December of 2002, the band announced a 2-month reunion tour of the US and Canada slated for the spring of 2023. Based on the success of that tour, the band announced their plans to record their 4th album after a 14-year hiatus in the coming year. And on the 8th of July, this past year in 2024, they released the song Reappearing Rat on streaming services and announced that their 4th studio album, Always Happy to Explode, would be released on September 20th of 2024. And it was. So they I guess this was, the 14-year break was just enough for them to, and probably this getting back together and playing kind of got the juices flowing again and the want
yeah.
to. So it's always fun to see that happen, especially when there's obviously a devoted fan following out there, and it sounds like music writers that really appreciate their stuff. So I'd be interested to check out some of that too once I do a little bit more back cataloging of their work and checking that out. Yeah, really interesting stuff. Really great shout, Mr. Crayer. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I had a lot of fun listening to this and looking it up. I think John enjoyed it, though there were some aspects that rubbed him the wrong way, as he said earlier, but that's that anti-prog bone in him. It is what it is. But everybody out there, let us know what you thought of this song by Sunset Rubdown in the comments field below. If there's other stuff by them or by, Spencer Krug himself that we should check out, feel free to shout it out in the comments field below. We love hearing from you guys. Also, please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. We really do appreciate it. It helps the channel go a long way, brings in new listeners, new suggestions, and ultimately new music, which is kind of what we're all here for. So thank you very much. And hopefully John and I will catch all of you in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.